You wake up. You sit up in the bed. You're a little frantic. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your teenager has not come home. You didn't hear her come in. You get out of bed. You check around the house. She's not there. You hear sirens in the distance. You look out of the window. There's no car. You're starting to pace back and forth now. This is really worrying you when all of a sudden you remember that your child is 40 years old and hasn't lived there for 20 years. Hello, I'm Rowena Starling, welcoming you to the Save Your Breath show, where we help parents eliminate the stress and aggravation of parenting, whether your child is 5 or 50. Today's show is about the last of the Mohicans, the parents of adults. As a parent of an adult, I and many of my clients have found that just because they are now adults does not mean that all of the stresses have suddenly been removed and subsided, never to return. Au contraire, the stresses are still there. A lot of them still have the same form. They kind of transition a little bit, but stress is stress. We're trying to get rid of that stuff. So, and on top of all of that, the stress is compounded by the fact that they no longer have to listen to what you have to say. What a revolting development that is. Don't you agree? Well, I like to be revered as a parent. How about you? I mean, being appreciated is a really, really, really important thing. And, not to be the pillar of wisdom or anything like that, but just appreciation. And a lot of times when you have this, this scratch in the back of your mind and the back of your feelings about being appreciated or not, it's an issue. It's about having done the job well. I mean, how many of you out there are not settling for stress and anxiety and illness, are willing to let that stuff go? Through the work that I've studied and that I teach, I've developed a set of skills that allows me to elevate my sense of mastery and self-confidence in my personal and professional life. It's a life hack that I use to enhance my life, and I've infused it into the family system that I've created, that I share with my clients. A very important aspect of this family system addresses the needs of the parents of adults. Would you like to have that? So much of what we do as parents, has been wrapped up in our lives for the 18 plus years of raising this human being. And we find it hard to detach. So what skills would you like to have under your belt that would allow you to make that detaching process easier? And the detaching is important. Obviously, you can't fully detach because of that relationship, but that thread of feeling is always going to be running there. But think of all of the challenges that you had to overcome in raising this human being. 18 years. If you think back over all of those challenges, the many stresses that piled in and year out. Many of us are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and we don't even know it. We're at the effect of it, and it's killing us. I have some information here from the National Center for PTSD. There are 4 categories, but there is one that I see most in parents. It's feeling keyed up. It's also called hyperarousal. You may be jittery or always alert and on the lookout for danger. You might suddenly become angry or irritable. This is known as hyperarousal. For example, you may have a hard time sleeping. You may have trouble concentrating. You may be startled by loud noises and surprise. There's that, and then there are random pieces from the other categories that you may notice in yourself. Nightmares, having flashbacks, having triggers to your behavior, or keeping very busy to avoid seeking help because it keeps you from having to think about or talk about the event. In this case, it's parenting. You may not have positive or loving feelings toward other people and may stay away from relationships. You may forget about parts of traumatic events or not be able to talk about them. And see, the problem with that is that if you have traumatic events, just because you think you have forgotten about them, if they have not been worked out of your system, they're back there working you. Oh yeah, oh man. And you can't quite figure out why is this happening over and over again? Why can't I get rid of this feeling? So forgetting about it is not necessarily the thing to do. We want to work it through and move it out of our system. That's part of what I help parents with. What would it feel like to relieve these anxieties and stresses? I mean, where in your life do you say, well, if I could only get rid of what? What is it that you'd have to get rid of to? Or if I could just feel confident with or be better at, what are those things that are sort of like a doubt that's in the way that's keeping you stuck? These are the things that we need to get rid of. And it's not too late to overcome these things. I am here to help you. After all, you possibly even have grandchildren that if you don't, you may have some in the future. You want to be able to rock and roll with that relationship so that you can not only live longer and enjoy it, but have harmony with your offspring in the process. As a mentor, I have spent over $130,000 and 40 years gaining the priceless experience and knowledge that it takes to share the information that I have with you. I have listened to people for over 15,000 hours, helping them to creatively solve problems related to many different areas of their lives, because they weren't all parents, but it frequently showed up in their parenting. Part of being the parent of an adult is to detach. You need to be able to assess situations and view them objectively and only offer advice when it's asked for. And hopefully it's even listened to then. It may not even be listened to when it's asked for, but please kind of just chill back on that. And the idea, too, is to be too busy with your own life that you don't have time to be meddling in theirs. Do you have that part down? Many parents of adults are clingy and they have trouble detaching. And they think that their illness is something that just happens because of age. But it's really deeper than that. If they would just realize that this unhealthy attachment, coupled with all the stress that they'd already been carrying over all those 18 plus years of raising them, that all of this was literally killing them and making them sick, then they would accept the help they so desperately need. But this is kind of a recurring issue with clients where, with their adult offspring that have to move back in because of the economy, or they're out of college and they're just coming back to get settled, and they're having to move back in. Well, now, because the problem is that these children, well, they're no longer children, but when they were children, they were spoiled. And so now they're moved back into the house, and you have these adults that are spoiled. And the family system helps out quite a bit here, because one of the issues with the spoiling process is that the parents are kind of weak about discipline. They're weak on a lot of fronts, but they have trouble kind of standing up for themselves in their own house now with these adults. So the chickens have come home to roost, so to speak. Well, the thing about it is now we can do the system, we can put the system in place, and part of that system is helping them to shore themselves up so they can show up the way they need to show up in their own home. And also because now the adults are, the children are now adults, they have a reasoning process that helps them get with the program, because they value having shelter versus not. Okay. There are some basics that we focus in on in my program and the family system. And this applies very much to, and especially to, parents of adults. And there are a set of beliefs that you need to be able to instill in yourself. And I just need to know that you have an understanding of them before we go forward. Now, what are these beliefs that are critical to repairing your anxious heart and your PTSD? That's the question. So as I say these things, when I'm saying I know, I'm talking about you. You know. You need to be able to say these things to yourself. Like the first one is, I know that I can gain the proper perspective. The next one is, I am actively engaged in my self-care, my nutrition, my exercise, and my meditation. In fact, when we talk about the exercise, very interesting, and I mentioned it on the show before, ballroom dancing. Here is the information from the Alzheimer's Project, also known as TAP. And just to summarize, the only physical activity to offer protection against dementia was frequent dancing. Reading reduced the risk of dementia by about 35%. Bicycling and swimming, 0%. Doing crossword puzzles at least 4 times a week reduced dementia risk by 47%. Playing golf, 0%. Dancing frequently reduced the risk of having dementia by 76%. Oh my God. That was the greatest risk reduction of any activity studied, cognitive or physical. Now, how much is frequently? Well, they say as much as you possibly can. If you can dance 4 times a week, fine. But I mean, I'm dancing in the kitchen and I'm dancing in the bathroom now. I've got to get the dance on. You know what I'm saying? But I think because of the ballroom dancing, you're firing. Well, you can go to the report yourself and read it. It's quite lengthy. But the firing of the brain in certain areas of the brain is keep that you're connecting those synapses. So here is something that you also get to contribute to your own kids and to your parents. This activity, this dancing. When we're young, we tend to dance, and then as time passes, we slowly stop. So add that wisdom to your kids and have them know that they need to continue dancing right into old age. And if your parents are not dancing, get them started. And for sure, now you know what to do, right? So that was the second thing. And then the third thing is, here's the belief: I know I can reactivate a certain aliveness that I've long forgotten. You know, I'm talking about that joie de vivre. You know, what was it like when you were in your early 20s? You know, that energy, that feeling like you were immortal. You know that feeling. You remember it. So we need to go back there and pull that juice back up. And the way we do that is with our hormones. You know, we need to be conscious about how we go in and handle ourselves with our hormones. And we have the power to do that. Hormonal flow. Hormones control and coordinate your body's internal metabolism, your energy level, reproduction, growth, and development, and responses to injury, stress, and environmental factors. And this is information from the Johns Hopkins Medical Library. So, hormonal flow is part of what we want to do to get that joie de vivre and that juice up. It helps to heal us. We're talking about healing and getting rid of stress, PTSD. Another is to say that I am aware of the overlapping destinies of humans. And that brings to the forefront of the fact that the kids come here with their own destinies. You can be the perfect parent. You can have the perfect environment that you bring them up into for 18 plus years. There is still that core aspect of who they are that you are not going to be able to influence. I think I read somewhere that it's like 20% core of who a person is. You can't, it's a crapshoot. You know, you don't know if you're raising some horrible, if your offspring grew up to be a bad person. The point is you can't take total or any responsibility for that, because there is a core part of who they are that they came here to be that you don't get to influence. If you luck out, it gets to be like, the President of the United States. Hey, I want to take all that credit. But clearly, I think you need to be totally focused on the fact that this overlapping destinies part is real, and you can have just so much influence, and then you have to let the rest go and let it be, and let them be. The other is, I know I initiate the relaxation response. I know how to initiate the relaxation response. That's a bit of a tongue waddler for me. And I'm talking about initiating this response without alcohol or drugs, which is what we usually do. And the beauty of that, I know we don't want to give up our alcohol, and some of us refuse to give up our drugs, but just let me let you know that once you are able to take that power into your own hands and be able to initiate the relaxation response on your own without those things begin to get in the way of actually allowing you to fully relax once you figure out and learn how to do it, if you don't already know. The other is, I know how to do powerful visualizations. Do you? I know how to turn negative thinking into positive thinking. Do you know that? It should be an easy one, but it only lasts. Sometimes you find yourself, you've snapped right out of it. You went into a positive thought, 5 minutes later, it was, what happened? Yeah, we need to be a little stronger in that arena. Then, I am an expert at mindfulness. Now, mindfulness isn't one of my most favorite words, but you know what I mean by that. And we can go into it some other time in depth. Here's the question. How is your relationship with your adult offspring? That's the question. When you ask yourself that question, what kind of feeling are you getting in your body? I have a client. Her name is Meg. And, she is a very sweet person. But her son doesn't speak to her at all. And it's very difficult for her because it's not like he's moved way across the country or something. He has moved, and the fact that he's across the country or not is not the point. The point is he refuses to talk to her, and it hurts her feelings. It makes her heart sick. When your feelings are hurt and your heart is sick, this is beginning to threaten your well-being, your health. So when we got together, we worked through a number of issues that she was having, because what happens is we get to attract a lot of what happens in our lives. And lo and behold, over time, her son has started to melt a little bit and get in contact with her, because she has been able to melt a lot of the stuff that she had going on with herself. A lot of it has to do with also this pressing forward, instead of just leaning back. I can't remember exactly what that principle is right off the top of my head, but it has to do with if you're constantly reaching and clawing at someone, they're just really like, oh, leave me alone. You stop that. And if they're meant to be in your life, that will be just enough for them an opening for them to come to you. So we've gone through the process. He's thawing out, he's coming around. But this is definitely one of the things that parents of adults deal with on a regular basis. There are alternating different issues, but just to give you a couple of examples of what we've worked with. Typical issues that parents of adults face is coping, like I said here, with the distant offspring are not speaking to you. Empty nest syndrome, and the empty nest syndrome is not as much these days from what I understand because of our economy. Then there is the offspring being rude to you. Oh yeah, they're talking to you all right. You wish they wouldn't. Yeah, being rude to you. There is the anxiety over how the parent treated their children when they were raising them. That's a big one. Dr. Joshua Coleman is the author of When Parents Hurt. And he says here, very few of us escape feeling guilt toward our offspring. It may be part of our evolutionary heritage, a way that nature hardwires us to stay sensitive to them even after they're grown. And some parents are responsible for transgressions that are harmful to their children. Child abuse, incest, neglect, alcoholism are a few of the egregious examples. However, whether the parenting mistakes are subtle or serious, real or imagined, today's parents are completely confused by their children's failures and accusations. They need guidance and support for themselves and not more advice about their children. And certainly by the time the children are no longer children, that ship has sailed. We got to get ourselves together at that point. So there's that, and then the wanting to have way more input into your child's life than your adult offspring's life than they want you to have. These are some of those issues. Now, here's the problem with trying to do these things on your own and alone. Have you ever noticed how Oh, you can see problems with other people's kids and how they're handling their situations with their adult kids, but you can't quite see your own. I mean, do you even look to see how perfect or imperfect you're being about this, how superior you're feeling about their situation versus what's going on with your own? A lot of what I teach is about the innate knowledge and having access to the unconscious mind. We have blind spots. Blind spots. You can't see them. And the idea is to be able to go in there and have a look at what's going on. It helps to answer why certain things are happening over and over again. Another thing is the growing health problem. You know, trying to handle your growing health problem solely on your own just takes longer. I know you have your doctor's opinion and various other opinions, but seriously, there's a lot that you can do if you have somebody there that's just standing right with you and observing what you're doing. And then there is the prolonged and continued estrangement when you may have had opportunities for reunion and reconciliation, right? Doing it on your own would take longer than necessary in that case. Working with a mentor helps to shorten the time that it takes to do a comprehensive mind, body, spirit reboot. And the family system is one of those things that helps you to get that together. A good experienced guide helps you to see parts of yourself that you're not assessing. You're not even looking at those things. You think they're normal. I mean, when they probably are normal, but you know, how normal do we want to get? There's some obtuse normal stuff. Can I get a witness on that? Many parents have read the books and looked at the videos of the experts and haven't been able to change family patterns that are repeating over and over and over again. And as a senior member of your clan, you get to see certain things repeating over and over and over again, right? So you know what I'm talking about. Without professional guidance, we tend to fill in the blanks with bad assumptions or untruths, start to parent by default and compound our stresses and our pain. Would you like to have the opportunity to raise the level of your parenting game and gain some insight into the real issues that are lying there? Would you like to spare yourself having to say the same things over and over and over again? Would you like to get over feeling anxious or the anxiety of wanting to be your offspring's friend? Perhaps learn more about the inner game of money so that you can have more flow in to yourself, especially now that the kids are grown. There are 5 steps in my family system. The first step is called the calling. Parenting is a calling. So we go in with our understanding of that, and that shifts the whole perspective. That shifts the energy around the whole program, the family system. With the use of meditation, we're able to go in and sort of organically reorganize what's going on with your cells and your understanding in that. And it flows, all those wonderful benefits of the meditation flow into the rest of the system. Then there is raising the dough, baking the bread, making the money. Getting an understanding of the inner game of money. Respect. Giving it and receiving it. Discipline. Instilling discipline. And now that the offspring are adults, this discipline now has to go with yourself, being disciplined about what you need to do for yourself to get over your PTSD, to get over your health issues, to slough off the stress. And then, of course, there is the family system itself, a custom family system if you don't already have one in place. If your kids are still around, your adult offspring and their kids, now we're talking about something that can benefit the whole family and create a map around that. May I hold your hand through this process? Connect with me through the parenting assessment found at saveyourbreath101.com /parenting-assessment. And sometimes it bounces right up to the website. Just go to the top of the page there and click on Parenting Assessment. Submit that and allow me to do a complimentary parenting breakthrough session for you. This is a $250 value for free. You'll be glad you did. Well, I thank you very much for watching and listening. And I look forward to seeing you again here on the Save Your Breath Show.